Hi, honeys. Welcome to Books and Hauls with Michelle. I'm here today to do my February wrap up, and I had quite the month in February. It's a bit of a roller coaster, but that's okay. That's how books are, right? The first book that I read was The Nightingale by Kristin. I think I was the last person on the planet to read it. What can I say about this book? It was super depressing. It was historically informative. And I love history, but I love reading about it in historical fiction. I like having people I can attach to stories. It just makes it so much easier for me to learn and to understand completely what happened in history. I found it fascinating reading this, what we will do to survive and what we will do to save other people as well. And it's interesting if you're, I think if not you, but if someone is a person that will save people, they will save people they love and they will save strangers. And if somebody isn't someone who saves other people, they won't save anyone. They are out for themselves. It just seems to be how it goes. It's also fascinating to me how evil we can really be. In case you haven't read it, this book is about Isabel and her sister Vianne and what they go through living in France during World War II. It's got some feminism sprinkles in there. It's just really good. It's a very quick read. It's an emotional read. Not only am I the last person to read it, I'm the only person that didn't cry while reading it. It was sad, but for some reason I just didn't cry. But I definitely recommend it. I give it 5 stars. I plan on rereading it eventually. I really loved it. The next book I read was The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This book was beautiful. It was intriguing. It's one of the first books, I think, of American feminism. And it was just so beautifully done. It's the kind of book I plan on rereading 100 times probably in my life. I don't quite think I understood it completely. I think I'm going to have to keep reading it over and over and over again to really grasp what I read. But wow, I loved it. I also give this one 5 stars. Now, it's going to be easy to reread it because it's only 15 pages long, but it's so beautiful. I loved it. I decided not to even count this as a book that I actually read this month because I didn't really read it. I got probably 20 pages in before I decided to DNF it. It's called Living Beautifully Together by Alexandra Stoddard. It's okay, it's supposed to be a book about getting along with other people, living beautifully with your spouse, your children, your pets, the world around you, your community. And yet, it was really weird the way it was written. It was just kind of sprinkled together, and it was a bunch of, it was like lessons she's learned in her life, but nothing about how to live with other people. And everything on it was just super short and like kind of jumbled. It didn't make any sense. And I thought, I almost felt like I was reading someone's diary, which would be fine if that's what the synopsis said, but it said nothing about that. It just was really like, and I didn't like the way it was written either. So I give it 1 star and I quit. I'm done. Now, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I loved Nosferatu by Joe Hill, who happens to be Stephen King's son. And I love Stephen King also. Not all of his books, right? Who does love every book of his? But I love a lot of his books, especially when I was younger. I read so many of them, and I plan on reading. He's got a book coming out in a couple days. What is it called? Lately? It's called Later. It comes out on the 2nd of March, and I plan on getting it and reading it. I'm not sure if I'll get it right away, but I will be reading it soon. And so I got a heart-shaped box. One of you had said to go ahead and read this and to give it a chance and let you know what I thought. So let me get this straight. This was his first novel? I can't wrap my head around it. It was so good. I loved it. I don't understand how you write a book this good your first time around. I think he had published a short story book or something before that, but this is his first novel. I don't know how to tell you what this is about without spoiling the book for you. So what I will say is what I took away from it. Other people's ghosts can haunt us, and we have to take care of other people's ghosts and our own. This book was gross. It was scary. It was moving. This book was about love. What is it? What it isn't? And why sometimes we aren't capable of loving others. This book has flawed characters that I just found absolutely lovable. I don't like perfect characters. I feel like I mentioned that a lot, but I don't. This book started out really lukewarm for me, and I was like, well, I guess it's okay, kind of, but I'll keep reading. And then it started heating up for me. And then I got scared, so scared that I jumped. And I was glad that Brad was home because I felt scared. Like, how am I going to go to sleep tonight? Then I felt moved and in love with the story, with the characters, with all of it. I felt just like the characters felt. And I thought it was wonderful. I give Heart-Shaped Box 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Wuthering Heights, or shall I say I tried to read Wuthering Heights. This was another DMF book for me. I gave up, I think it was around page 80. Do I still have the bookmark in there? I don't. I think it was around page 80. I had to give up. It was horrible. I felt like I was being punished for something. It was just terrible. I didn't like the reading. I didn't like the characters. I had no idea who the main character was, like whose point of view we were listening to. At first I thought it was a guy that had just moved to the town or village or whatever. And then I thought, no, I think it's a woman who's like a cook or maid for the family. It didn't make sense. I couldn't figure out who was who. I thought it was supposed to be a love story, but it wasn't. What? Where am I? Who am I? I didn't know when I was reading this, that's for sure. I didn't like it. And I'm sorry, because I'm just apologizing now, because I know there's some people that absolutely loved that book, but I am not of that group. I did not like the writing. I didn't like the characters. I guess that was his storyline. I just didn't like it. It just wasn't for me. I have read some classical literature that I absolutely loved, that has moved me in so many ways, but sometimes I really struggle with classical literature, and unfortunately, both Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights were a struggle for me. So I gave that 1 out of 5 stars. After all that drama, I had to cleanse my palate and lighten the doom that was over my head. So I decided to cheer myself up and read the second Patricia Fisher mystery. It's called The Kidnapped Bride by Steve Higgs. And I loved it. Of course I loved it. I'm talking about Steve Higgs. Apparently, I love his writing now. This is 2 books in a row that I absolutely have loved. Patricia now has somewhat of an entourage, if you will, that are with her in these stories. And I love the entourage. I love the relationships in them. I love the ambiance, the cruise ship. You can smell the ocean. You can see the highly polished banisters. I mean, it's just, I feel like I'm there. So I definitely love this ship. I love the theatrics, the ambiance, the costumes. It's just beautiful. I liked this book so much. I kept imagining what actors I would cast in the roles of each of the characters. That's when I know that I'm really invested in a series. And please, 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 please tell me that these are going to be made into movies eventually. I think they would be so fun. I just feel like I'm being whisked away out on the ocean and just away from my problems whenever I read these books. I just love them. And I do give this 5 out of 5 stars. There's one thing I didn't really quite care for, though. There's a bunch of gangsters in the book, and I couldn't figure out which was which. There was so many gangsters, and they were all in different squads or whatever, and I couldn't figure out who belonged to who or why we needed so many gangsters. It was just really hard to keep track of them. They weren't mentioned enough to remember. I don't know. I wasn't quite a fan of that part, but the rest of it, perfect. And what this book is about is Patricia Fisher. She is on an around the world cruise, and this group of gangsters shows up at one of the ports on the ship. And one of the gangsters, his fiance disappears, and it is asked that she be the one to find out what happened to the missing soon to be bride. And I don't want to say anything else because I don't want to give the book away. And the last book that I read in February was The Four Winds by Kristin Hannah. Before I get into what I thought of the book, I have a friend named Kristin, and she has a page, Kristin Moments of Sanctuary. And she had this great idea. She wanted to do a book review chat of this book together. And we did, and she's going to post it soon. And when she does, I will share it. So be sure to keep a lookout on her page and or mine so that you guys can view us chatting about this book. I thought it was really fun. Okay, what to say about this book? There's so much to say about it. This book is about a lady named Elsa who has 2 kids and a husband, and she's living on a farm with her in-laws in Texas. And the Great Depression hits, and the Dust Bowl migration starts, and she and her family are forced with the decision of should they stay or should they go. And it's just a really good book. It's a wonderful take on another historical time in our world. Once again, I love having a personal touch to a historical story. I really fell in love with this book. It just really hit me hard. I cried twice. One time really hard, actually. And the other time I just kind of cried. But I really got into this book. I loved the relationship with Elsa and her mother-in-law. It was the kind of relationship that I think every woman wants to have with their mother or their mother-in-law. I also loved the relationship that she had with her father-in-law. She ended up having a friend named Jean, that their friendship was really beautiful to me. She's another flawed character that's just so beautiful too, and I feel like she's a friend of mine. She's a close personal friend. All I have to do is pick up this book and her and I can have a chat. That's how I feel. This was such a beautiful telling of survival and of being brave. Now, this book was very similar to The Grapes of Wrath, which is one of my favorite books of all time. It's definitely not the same book. It's a different take on the same historical event, but apparently I just love the Dust Bowl migration because I absolutely love both books. I just love all the details of all the nuances of the time. She even talked about flour sack dresses and about what they would have to do to clean water to be able to drink it. And it was just so fascinating. I really loved it. I felt so immersed in that world. There was little hints of what's going on now in this story, and it's funny because at the end of the book I read the author's note that she wrote this she started it before the pandemic, having obviously no idea that it was going to hit. And So she was writing this throughout this whole year. And I think it sounds like it affected her writing this while she was going through the pandemic. And I think there's a lot of little bit of hints and mentions that kind of make you feel like, oh my gosh, there's so many similarities. Like it's different, but it's the same. I will say it's a good reminder, though, that our ancestors had it so much worse than we do. We, I know this has been rough, but they had it a lot worse. And it also helps me understand my grandparents and my great grandparents and the lives that they led a lot better. I feel compelled to wonder what little things will there be about us that will look funny to our kids or our grandchildren, anybody who's not alive now, years from now. What little oddities will we have? I think one of the things that they will probably laugh at us about and think, how odd is that we all will be hoarding toilet paper. Right? The moral of the story is you do what you have to do to get by, you will survive. And if you don't, you don't. I don't know how else to say that. But for me, this I was just taken aback by my love for this book. And it also really compelled me to think about how we treat the poor in our country, how we treat immigrants, and maybe how we should treat our poor and our immigrants. Very thought compelling. So I loved this book. I would almost gave it 4.5 stars, but I loved it so much though that I'm gonna give it 5. And I actually do like this book more than the Nightingale. So that's how I feel about that one. Also, if you're just curious, because there's so many authors here that I've read more than once, or more than one of their books. Heart Shaped Box, while I loved it, it was 4.5 stars. Nosferatu, which is back here behind me, right there. I gave that one 5 stars. I still stand by that. I still think Nosferatu was better, but this one was very solid. And then this book is another one where it's an author that I've read more than once. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. I plan on rereading it. Where's his other book? Oh. Oh. His other book is right here. The Missing Sapphire of Zanzibar. I still like the first one more, but I do love this book. And we'll see about the third soon. I'm not sure if I'm going to read the third book in March or if I will read a different cozy mystery. Kind of on the fence. I don't want to get too comfortable with one author like that and with some of the categories of the books that I'm reading. So we'll see. I'm kind of on the fence. I will be putting links to these books down in the description box. And just to be 100% honest with you, they will be affiliate links with Amazon. If you click on those links and you use them to buy any of these books, I do get a small percent commission. And the way I look at it, every little bit helps. And I seriously appreciate your support in helping me fund all the books that I buy for this page. Also, tomorrow I will be posting a book vlog. You will get to hear my thoughts on, I'm trying to remember what books I read in that vlog. I think it was this one and this one. So you'll get to hear kind of real time what I thought of the books. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them down in the comments. If you have any questions about any of them, let me know. I'd be happy to hear it. If you have any book-related videos that you'd like to see, please let me know. I can't guarantee that I'll do it, but I will consider it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day or night. I love you. Bye.